So one of the questions I get rather often is what kind of gear should I be using to make YouTube videos? So I decided to have a webinar, and so I'm doing a little preview and asking you guys to sign up for the webinar in this video. So a little bit different than my regular videos. What I've got is a webinar coming up called Gearing Up for YouTube, and it's the gear that coaches, authors, and speakers might use to spread their message on YouTube. And I'm gonna have a link down below so that you can sign up for the webinar, or if it's already past the webinar, there'll be maybe a different link for you to watch the replay. But in this video, what I'm gonna do is just kind of talk about part of what I'm gonna be covering in the webinar, and that is cameras. And of course, if you join me on the live webinar, we'll be able to have more of a discussion about this, but I wanted to give you like a preview of what you might see coming up this Thursday. I've got this. This is a Gearing Up for YouTube guide. This is kind of all the gear that you could be using for YouTube, 6 pages or so long, and it's kind of my recommendations. But really, you don't need all of this stuff to start with YouTube. There's some very basic gear, and I'll point that out on the webinar. And then there's some more advanced gear. For you, it might be perfect to start with something simple, or you might want to go all the way to something expensive, or you might want to have kind of a mix with your different pieces of equipment. So let's talk cameras. So I'm going to start with the camera that I recommend most often, and that is the one that you already have in your pocket. So this is an iPhone 6. And pretty much if you're still using an iPhone, if it still works, it's probably got a pretty good camera in it, because I think they've always had good cameras, but these have really good cameras. They're typically better than the webcam on your computer. You always have them with you. So you just have to, make sure you look good, and there's some tricks to looking good on this, but for the most part, using this and just using the camera app that comes with your phone is a good option if you're just starting out on YouTube, or even if you just want to shoot something to add to your YouTube channel, just provide some extra value. But this is what I'd say 75 or 80% of my clients are using, is an iPhone or an Android device. And the next type of camera is a webcam. So like I mentioned in the iPhone previously, webcams typically aren't so great, the ones that are built into your computer, but there are some really nice webcams that you can buy to add on. This one was just like 50 bucks, and this is a Logitech C920, and this will work with a Mac or a PC. This guy's great. Let me show you a couple of features. One is, it's just it'll sit on top of your computer just like any other webcam. It's kind of, let me see if I can get this in here. Got this little clamp thing here. It's strange because I'm using autofocus and I normally don't do that. It can mount onto just about any computer, if it's your desktop or whatnot, or laptop. And the thing that I really like about this guy is that it has this. See if you can see that. It's a 1/4 screw hole on the bottom. This guy can mount to any tripod. And that's really one of the main features that I'm looking for in a webcam. Not only a 1080p webcam, this also does some hardware compression inside the webcam so you get a better image. But Logitech has this. The C920 is the one I like best. The C922, actually I think technically this one is the C922. I don't think it's worth the price for the upgrade, really. C920 is the affordable version, and this guy is a workhorse. It's been around for a long time, and I've been recommending this one for a long time. And like I said, I've tried some of the upgrades. I just don't think they're necessarily worth it, unless maybe you're a gamer. If you're a gamer, but you're probably not a coach, author, or speaker at that point. Webcam, great option, especially if you're doing screen recording. You want to hook it directly up to your computer and record everything together. Great option. So something that a lot of people ask about, and they think this is kind of a necessity to have for YouTube, is a DSLR. Now, these are very popular amongst the big YouTubers. This is kind of like the standard YouTube gear, and it creates a beautiful image. But other than that, they're kind of a pain in the butt. So if you don't know how to use a DSLR, it's just going to be an additional learning curve. I wouldn't start with this guy unless maybe you're a photographer and you already know about f-stops and ISO and depth of field and things like that. These will create beautiful images. They're a little more expensive, so it's a good option, but I don't recommend anyone start here because I think you'll just be spending all your time trying to figure out how to use the camera instead of producing valuable content for your target audience. So the last one is a video camera, a camcorder. And these, I never really recommended these for the longest time, just because the iPhone had really awesome image quality, about as good as this one, and you already have it with you. There wasn't a lot of reason to have a video camera, but one thing I found is if you're a speaker, if you're doing public speaking, this is actually a really good option because these guys can really zoom in. So you could put this guy in the back of the room and zoom in so that you can see yourself, like, taking up half the screen or more. Typically if someone puts a camera at the back of the room, if you were to put this camera at the back of the room, you'd be just this tiny little dot speaking at the front. Or if you try to do this from the front of the room, you'd have to have it sitting like way down below you, looking up your nose, and that's no good. This guy is great. It has an external microphone. This is a Canon, I think it's an R800, a Vixia R800. And it's pretty good. It's got an external SD card, so you pop the card out when you're finished recording and you pop that into your computer. And it's got the screen, and it's a touch screen, so the controls all work on there. The screen does rotate around so you can see it as you're setting up. Like I said, I had not been recommending video cameras. I just didn't see a good reason to buy one. But now thinking about speakers, it's a pretty good option for speakers because you can use this for all of your YouTube videos, but you can also use it for your public speaking recordings. So I started out by mentioning that there is a webinar coming up. You can click down below to reserve your spot on that webinar. It's free. Also, one other thing I'm going to put in the description down below is this guide. This is a great guide to gearing up for YouTube. So kind of goes beyond there. I've got cameras, I've got lighting, I've got audio, and kind of everything that I'm going to be covering on the webinar is going to be in this guide too. So I'd love to have you on the webinar so we can kind of interact and get to know each other. There'll be something on the screen here that you can click on to get registered for that webinar, or afterwards I'll change it out so that you can see the replay if you're watching this after Thursday, May 3rd. But I look forward to seeing you at the webinar.